hobbies are making. I wanted to sort of improve some of the work I was doing on composition a little bit there. And then it goes on to some of the plans I have for some of the illustrations, the 3D illustrations for poetry. So Midsummer Night's Dream, that's a bit more of that. Sea Fever, sort of writing out the poem sort of helps that. That's something else. Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven, which is that's sold now. That's a really lovely sculpture. It all opens up and there's different fabrics in there, and it's made out of a piece of wood that was from a wardrobe, and made out of wood called cedar of Lebanon, so it has a lovely smell to it as well. And then just some little doodles. See, the thing about circles, I do quite often. That's another poem I might develop, The Blackbird, Don't Drink Water. I'll come back to that in a minute. I was doing some work doing a creative review, looking at my work and sort of digging into it to see what I was really enjoying from it. And it came out that I really enjoy lots of different layers and lines, and the direction of things. So I've been doing a little bit of work on that, and looking at different materials and the shapes that they make. This was just doing some very, very, very quick little sketches with some charcoal. I think that's my favourite one there. But I was researching different artists, and I looked at Rauschenberg, who does some wonderful, wonderful stuff with different items, different materials, different media, different objects. This is really interesting because he's repeated it. So he's made a duplicate of one of his mixed media combinations, he calls them, because it's a combination of sculpture and painting, which is what I sort of do. And one I believe is in New York, and the other I think it's Los Angeles, but they're a whole state, a whole country apart. Amazing that they sort of work in combination but have that distance between them. I thought that was really interesting use of space with that one. So coming on to what I'm doing at the moment, a few more charcoaly pictures and some planning for the residency rather at the mill, taking to the mill, and then just some playing with different colours and textures, looking again at layering, and I'm sort of exploring under the surface, beneath the surface, sort of currents that are running, how you might build that up with the colours that I enjoy. This was interesting when I was playing with this one. This is a collage of different thicknesses of paper, and at the same time I was making some sketchbooks out of wood, because a lot of the work I do is on wood, so really I need to have sketchbooks that are made out of different types of wood. But I thought it was interesting because I did this after I visited the mill, and there in the landscape is a millstone, because I'm thinking about work that I'm going to be doing when I go up to Buxton at the end of May. And here's some more development of those ideas, thinking about what's happening under the ground, into caverns, what's actually beneath our feet, and some more notes there on people I've been researching. Louise Nevelson, who's another amazing artist, with her sculpture, which is using found objects, particularly found wood, and David Nash as well, who I've got a particular thing about. Oh, some notes there about under the ground, a lot of different things in Derbyshire. Ancient seas, that's an interesting one, and of course fracking as well. That's going to be quite interesting. Just some little scribbles there of some little drawings, my hand and what have you. Thinking about the windmill again here. Thinking about how light and shades used in the windmill, and I sort of played around with some different woods in a collagey sort of way there, and the shape, sort of the space. It's going to be really interesting developing that work, the forms that are there, and the way the light comes into the mill, to see what transpires, and of course the history aspect in terms of layers and things under the surface and undercurrents maybe as well. interesting print that I've got here from this piece of work coming through, and just a different sort of colour palette there, thinking of different textures and forms under the surface. And I've always had a fascination with how water dribbles down, like on a beach when you see all the little rivulets around the rocks and what have you, so that might creep into that as well. And then I've just got a couple of pages of when I've been thinking about I did some work in the studio and focused in on the different ways that the work is developing, thinking about the currents. I did this piece, you can't really see it very well here, but I did it on scrunched up paper, so as I stroked the top of the paper, the charcoal would pick up the wrinkles and the crinkles. With these shapes, again, I'm thinking about the rivulets of water. But also it occurred to me about the currents of air, particularly how the air are going to be navigating the sails at the windmill. And again, sort of like currents navigating blockages and finding ways through, and what's happening underneath the surface. So there's some really interesting starting points there to work with. And you can see that idea again here. This is just a work in progress collection of pieces of wood that I've already worked on, assemblage together of them there, and then I've worked over it with the photograph, sort of thinking about where those main currents might go through in a sort of composition sort of way. I was playing on that idea here as well, how the windmill sails work. Reminded me a little bit of Ogham marks as well. And that was going really focusing in. It's not a great printout, but I was thinking about this one beautiful bit of orange against the blue there. I think that's where I am at the moment.